Hi, good morning. I'm going to have a video presentation regarding ethical and legal aspects of nursing practice. This video has a contents about the definition of ethical and legal aspects of nursing practice, ethical principles in nursing, and medical assistance in dying. Here is the introduction of ethical aspects of nursing. Ethical values are essential for any healthcare provider. Ethics comes from the Greek word ethos, meaning character. Ethical values are universal rules of conduct that provide a practical basis for identifying what kinds of actions, intentions, and motives are valued. Ethics are moral principles that govern how the person or a group will behave or conduct themselves. The focus pertains to the right and wrong of actions and encompasses the decision-making process of determining the ultimate consequences of those actions. Each person has their own set of personal ethics and morals. Ethics within healthcare are important because workers must recognize the healthcare dilemmas, make good judgment and decisions based on their values while keeping the laws that govern them. To practice competently with integrity, nurses, like all healthcare professionals, must have regulations and guidance within the profession. The American Nurses Association, or ANA, has developed the Code of Ethics for this purpose. The legal aspects of nursing encompasses a range of laws and regulations designed to protect patients and ensure the delivery of high-quality health care. Nurses must be familiar with these legal requirements and adhere to them in their practice. The Code of Ethics for Nurses has three different provisions. The first provision is the nurse practices with compassion and respect for the inherent dignity, worth, and unique attributes of every person. The nurse must have a high level of respect for individuals and allow dignity in regards to dealings with care and communication. It's important that patients' families are also treated with respect for their relationship to the patient. Nurses must understand the professional guidelines in communications and work with colleagues and patients' families. It's important to understand the proper relationship that should be maintained with the families and patients. All individuals, whether patients or coworkers, have the right to decide on their own participation in care and work. The second provision is the nurse's primary commitment is to the patient, whether an individual, family, group, community, or population. The patient should always be the first and primary concern. The nurse must recognize the need for the patient to include their thought into care practices. Any conflict of interest, whether belonging to external organizations or the nurse's habits or ideals that conflict with the act of being a nurse, should be shared and addressed to not impact patient care. Collaboration with internal and external teams to foster best patient care is necessity. Understanding professional boundaries and how they relate to patient care outcomes is important. The third provision for the Code of Ethics for Nurses is the nurse promotes, advocates for, and protects the rights, health, and safety of the patient. It is important for the nurse to understand all privacy guidelines with regards to patient care and patient identifiers. Nurses involved in research must understand all aspects of participation, including informed consent and full disclosure to the patient of all aspects required to participate in the study. The nurse must understand any institutional standards set in place to review his or her performance. This includes measurements of progress and the need for further review or study to meet performance standards. To become a nurse, competence must be demonstrated in clinical and documentation process. Let's talk about understanding ethical issues in patient care. Nurses regularly face complex ethical dilemmas that test their professional values and commitment to patient welfare. These situations often involve competing interests, limited resources, and difficult decisions about treatment, autonomy, and end of life care. First one is patient autonomy, which means respecting patients' right to make informed decisions about their own care, even when nurses disagree with those choices. Next one is confidentiality. It's about protecting sensitive patient information while balancing transparency with healthcare teams and legal obligations. And last one is the resource allocation, meaning making fair decisions about limited medical resources and prioritizing care when demand exceeds availability. And now, let's talk about the topic about medical assistance and dying. Medical aid in dying, sometimes referred to as physician-assisted dying or death with dignity, has a lengthy history in the U.S. according to Dr. Trim. Although the first euthanasia laws were passed in 1910s, their main goal was to make the practice illegal. It is also referred to as death with dignity. It was passed in Oregon in 1994 and permits doctors to prescribe drugs that will allow a patient to pass away quietly. Derek Humphrey, whose wife suffered from a neurological disease, established the Hemlock Society in 1980 to promote the right to a peaceful death. In the 1997 case of Washington v. Glucksberg, the matter made its way to the Supreme Court, which decided that it is a state's right matter and that no federal law either permits or forbids medical assistance in dying. Ethical dilemmas in practice. Nurses regularly face complex situations requiring careful ethical reasoning and professional judgment. Dilemmas in practice includes end-of-life care, resource allocation, and whistleblowing. Let's talk about the end-of-life care. It's about balancing patients' wishes, family needs, and medical interventions with dignity and compassion. Resource allocation, making fair decisions when resources are limited and multiple patients need care. And lastly, whistleblowing. It's about reporting unsafe practices or unethical conduct while protecting patients' safety. There are also what we call practical actions for ethical excellence, and that includes informed consent, privacy protection, compassionate care, and ethical reporting. Let's talk about informed consent. This is about ensuring that the patients receive clear, understandable information about treatments, risk, and alternatives before making decisions. Privacy protection. It safeguards patient confidentiality, limited information sharing to necessary personnel, and respect patients' wishes regarding disclosure. Compassionate care. It provides emotionally supportive, dignified care that recognizes patients' fears, values, and individual needs beyond medical requirements. Ethical reporting. Report unethical practices, unsafe conditions, or patients' harm through appropriate channels while protecting vulnerable patients and colleagues. In healthcare settings, it is important to have strategies to improve ethical patient care. Nurses can implement concrete strategies to enhance ethical practice and improve the quality of care that patients receive. These approaches transform ethical principles into meaningful actions that strengthen patient relationship and outcomes. The first one is enhancing communication. Engage in open, honest dialogue with patients about their values, preferences, and concerns. Listen actively and ensure that the patient understands their treatment options and their reasoning behind recommendations. Develop cultural competence. Understand and respect diverse cultural, religious, and personal values that influence patients' healthcare decisions. Adapt care approaches to honor individuals' beliefs while maintaining clinical standards. Participate in ethics committees. Engage in institutional ethics committees to discuss complex cases, seek guidance and difficult decisions, and contribute nursing perspective to organizational ethical policies. Nurses also serve as advocates that ensure patients receive respectful treatment and their rights are protected throughout care. Voice patient concerns. It's about speaking up when patient needs are not being met or rights are violated, protecting their vulnerable populations, advocate for elderly, disabled, or marginalized patients who cannot advocate for themselves, and collaborate with the team. Work with the healthcare providers to resolve conflicts and ensure ethical care delivery. This video presentation came up with the conclusion of the core of the nursing profession is ethics and law, which directs nurses in their day-to-day work and assists them in navigating challenging healthcare settings. Nurses can deliver excellent care while defending the rights and welfare of their patients by abiding the law and ethical standards. Maintaining professional integrity and upholding the trust society has placed in nurses requires ongoing education and understanding of changing ethical and legal concerns. To guarantee that their profession satisfies the highest standards of care and responsibility, nurses must continue to be watchful and proactive in resolving moral conundrums and legal issues. This is the end of this video presentation. Thank you for watching. For the references, you can find it in the last page of the presentation. Thank you.